Hello, welcome to Zoonosis with Joy. I'm Joy, and today we're going to be talking about police dogs. The sources are in the description. Opinions all are my own. If you like this video, please like the video, comment in the comment section, and support the channel by subscribing. Police dogs are a relatively modern invention coming from the 19th century, but dogs have been used to catch and subdue fleeing people since dogs have been domesticated and since the origins of warfare. We know from the ancient world that dogs were used to capture fleeing soldiers on the battlefield. They were used by the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks. The Romans had mastiff-like dogs in the legions, and they were used throughout the Middle Ages. Christopher Columbus and the conquistadors that followed used dogs to subdue indigenous people and kill them. So there is that legacy there. In more recent times, dogs were used to capture, subdue, and sometimes kill runaway slaves. And the history of slavery would not be complete without talking about the bloodhounds and the dogs that were used to subdue them. We have, of course, vivid accounts, both fictionalized and real, from this period. Of course, in Uncle Tom's Cabin, Frederick Douglass, and of course, the 12 Years a Slave. We know that dogs have been used for these purposes for centuries. And in some ways, that legacy continues until contemporary times. We know that dogs were used in the World Wars, World War I, World War II. I made a video about the German Shepherd dog, which is a modern breed that came into use right before World War I, that became popularized during that war, and then during World War II was seen in use by both the Axis and the Allied powers. We know that the Americans were using dogs like this to train to sniff the blood of Japanese soldiers and attack those people specifically. So there is a racialized violence there. We know that the Nazis used German Shepherd dogs in the death camps, and we do know that other Allied powers and Axis powers used dogs as well. But dogs have been used in more of a civilian context. And of course, we immediately picture things like the Civil Rights Movement in the United States, where peaceful protesters were attacked by dogs from the police departments, such as in Birmingham, Alabama. It was also used in the apartheid South Africa, and of course to today in the apartheid Israel. So there is quite a lot of this continued history of violence using dogs as weapons of attack. Modern policing uses dogs as well for drugs sniffing, searching and seizuring, that kind of thing. Also for search and rescue as well. This video is not about them. This video is about the use of police dogs primarily at capturing, subduing, and apprehending suspects. And I do mean suspects. People who are captured and attacked by police dogs are not convicted criminals necessarily. They may have prior convictions, they may have a criminal history, but by and large, the people who are being attacked by these dogs have not been charged or convicted with any crime. They are being apprehended during the process of this, and they may be innocent, they may be bystanders. Dogs cannot understand the difference between a bystander and a person standing by. There's, of course, a racialized aspect to this. As I mentioned, the bloodhounds in the antebellum South, they became the police dogs of today. I mean, they might use a different breed now, and there's, of course, a huge difference between the chattel slavery of the antebellum South and the state of race in the United States today, but it has the same sort of lineage. We know that the slave catching patrols of the United States, they passed on their techniques and their personnel and their knowledge to the police departments of the United States. And this is the basis for police dogs today. What is my beef with police dogs? Why not go after the police officers? Yes, that's a good question, because, of course, policing has all different kinds of abuses. But this is one that I think touches a raw nerve, particularly for me, as someone who's an animal lover, who's a veterinarian, who understands kind of how this would affect the people and the animals involved. But it's a different kind of brutality than what we might expect. This is something from the ancient world. It's being mauled and attacked by an animal. It's also a form of racialized violence that often goes unspoken of, right? We think about the police officer that attacks someone who is of a different race, someone who is Latino or Black or Indigenous. But we don't often think about the dogs doing it. Dogs don't necessarily believe in race. I mean, I've met dogs where the owners claim that they have racism or they experience anxiety. Of course, dogs feed off the emotions of their owners, and the biases that dogs have, they're often informed by the environment in which they were raised, that kind of thing. So there is an aspect to that as well. But what I'm talking about specifically is the racialized violence that police use with the police dogs. We know that in many police departments in the United States, police dogs are used disproportionately against people who are racialized, particularly Black and Latino. In LA, for instance, only 2% of police dog bite incidents were in white neighborhoods or white areas, whereas the rest of them were in predominantly Black and Latino areas. And the vast majority of people who were attacked were Black or Latino, disproportionately so. So there is a racialized aspect to this. In Canada, in British Columbia, Canada, the number one reason for police injury reports by the for the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties, was their dogs. Their dogs are being used against people, primarily Indigenous people. Now, you think about a dog bite, you may think about little Fido biting your finger if you got between it and the bone, but police dog bites are different. Police dogs are trained to bite and hold. So their job is to basically catch the suspect and hold them there until the police can get over there and arrest the suspect. This is a very different kind of bite and results in very different kinds of injuries that are often more severe. Dogs that are trained to do this are trained to go after the head, the neck, and the torso. When they do that, they are more liable to cause serious injuries. In fact, hospital admissions for dog bites are 42% for these kind of bites versus domestic dog bites at home, which are often underreported and are far less common. These often also get infected. If you think about it, a dog that bites your finger only has a few seconds, potentially, of contact between the dog's oral mucosa and the wound. For a police dog, they have many seconds. It takes a long time. They hold their mouth there. There's bacteria from the dog's mouth seeping into the wound, the saliva pooling into those wounds, and they often get infected. They often need tetanus prophylaxis for the people who aren't up to date on their tetanus vaccines. Get vaccinated. It's something that can cause mind-blowing injuries that often require more invasive diagnostics and more intense hospital therapeutics. So it uses more resources for the hospital to treat patients that have been attacked by police dogs than by other kinds of dogs. We also know that police dogs bite multiple times. You see, police dogs are trained to bite and hold. So what happens if the person tears himself free from a dog? The dog bites again. They are trained to hold that person in place. This can cause serious injuries to the people, and there have been reported deaths for people who have been attacked by police dogs. The dogs don't really know what they're doing. They're trained to hold a person there. But the people sure as heck do, right? If you get attacked by an animal, this activates part of your nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system. You may have heard of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. These are all sympathetic nervous system reactions. This is what happens when adrenaline and noradrenaline, sometimes called epinephrine or norepinephrine, circulate through your body. And one of the responses that we have is to fight back. And this is when police dogs get injured and killed in the line of duty. They don't understand duty like we understand duty, but they're put in these situations where they can get injured and even killed during these sort of interactions. It's something that has sparked public controversy in the past. In, Pittsburgh, they had several cases where police dogs were killed while apprehending suspects. And oftentimes this generates a lot of media hype and controversy. But it's important to note that these are animals that don't really understand what parts of processes they're being put into, and they're putting into these dangerous situations where they can be killed. My sympathies are to the animals. They're also to the people who are being attacked by this. This is one of the most terrifying and traumatic things you could probably go through, being attacked by an animal that wants to kill you. I go into rooms with dangerous animals every single day where the owners don't know how to handle their animals, and the animals are scared and they don't want to be at the veterinary clinic. I understand that. But it's an entirely different thing being chased down and mauled by an animal who was trained to cause severe injuries to you and potentially even kill you. Now, if you do go into the, your fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and you decide, and you can't ever predict this until you're in the moment, the logic turns off, that you're going to fight off this dog, chances are you could be liable for that. In the United States, there is a law on the books that says that if you harm or intend to or attempt to harm an animal maliciously, quote unquote, whatever that means, and you cause a sort of permanent injury or permanent disfigurement or serious bodily injury or death to that animal, you could get up to 10 years in federal prison in the United States. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if that's, anyone's ever been convicted under those sort of laws. But what I'm saying is that the sympathies are going to go to the animal, not towards you, if you're ever in a situation where you're being chased down by one of these dogs. And like I said, you may not be the person who is the primary target. You may be someone who's an innocent bystander in all of this, and the police dog is mistargeted and attacks you instead. So it's risky for the dogs, it's risky for the people. It's really not something that belongs in the modern world. It's something that's dangerous to everyone involved, and I don't think it's humane, and I don't think it's right for anyone. It's probably the first thing we should be talking about when we're talking about reforming the police or defunding the police or abolishing the police. We need to abolish police dogs, in this capacity especially. This is something that's super dangerous, and I think that it has no place for us. I've treated police dogs in the past. They are amazing working animals. They're very smart. They like what they're doing. And it's not fair to the dogs. It's not fair to anyone to be attacked by these dogs. It's really not something that we need to have in our society, and it belongs in the ancient world. It belongs in the Middle Ages. It belongs to the ugliest periods of history. It's not something that we want to have today. And I don't think that's the kind of society we want to be building. So if you're already convinced about police defunding or abolition, use the sources in the description, rate it, use it for your own purposes. If you're not convinced about those things, or you're on the fence, at least talk to your representatives, talk to someone who knows about this sort of thing. Try to convince them to push for this sort of abolition. It's the least you could do, really. And it's not falling on everyone equally. It is something that is racialized, like I said. It's something that we can, get over as a society if we put effort into it. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of effort. And it's something that it makes me sick to my stomach, and it makes it hard for me to sleep at night, knowing that this is being done and for the guise of security and safety and that sort of thing, and it's being done to harm animals and to harm people. It has no place, and it's not okay. So with that video out of the way, if you have any questions or anything in the comments, put it down below. I mean, be nice. I delete the mean ones. But if you have a genuine comment or a genuine reflection, I'd love to hear it. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and I will see you next time. Peace.